There have been some amazing 100mm macro lenses from other manufacturers, do not get me wrong, but what is going to set this one apart, I think, is this. Wow, this feels, this feels so illegal. After 10 long years, Sony have finally released a brand new dedicated macro lens. This is the FE 100mm f2.8 macro G master lens. Yes, it has the orange G and a whole bunch of other things, including one feature that I know everyone is going to be excited about. I am beyond pumped to talk about this lens, so let's jump into it. Now, people are going to draw comparisons between the new G Master lens and the 90mm macro G lens that came out in 2015. And you can see why they both look very similar. But the 100mm macro is slightly larger and slightly wider, and it is also half an ounce heavier. But with that comes a quality upgrade in autofocus, image sharpness, and we even get macro specific stabilization in the new 100mm G Master. With the new lens, we have a 1.4 times magnification to really give your images that very much larger than life feel. It definitely brings out the wow factor in these macro shots. The autofocus on the 100mm macro is twice as fast as the 90mm macro, and that's thanks to having 4 XD linear motors. Now these are Sony's top of the top focusing motors. They're super quick and super quiet. So when you're trying to find focus on something, it doesn't sound like you're trying to print or fax something away, trying to find focus on your subject, which might have happened on this guy. And what that means is the new 100mm 2.8 can handle the 120 frames per second from the Sony A9 III, which makes this a much more versatile lens. We still have the autofocus to manual focus push dial here, so if I push this down, I can then really dial in my focusing distances. I mean, this much of a turn, that's 2 centimeters, so you can really get specific on where you need that focus to land. We also have the same amount of switches on here. We have the OSS switch, we have our focusing distance toggle, and we also have a full-time DMF switch, so you can turn that on and off. And alongside that, we have 2 customizable buttons and a declickable aperture ring. So if you're doing video, you can declick the aperture and get some nice smooth transitions there. Like I said, this is a very versatile lens. So let's say, again, you're a wedding shooter and you're getting some really close-up details of the ring, but then you can take a couple of steps back, maybe a few more because we're at 100mm, and get a beautiful compressed portrait of your couple at 100mm. And the same thing goes if you're a studio, food, product photographer, details up close, compression from afar. You really cannot go wrong with this lens. No wonder Sony are calling it the Swiss Army knife of lenses. And when you do take a look at your photos, you are going to be blown away by how sharp these images are. And I'm not talking about just in the center, I'm talking corner to corner sharpness with this guy. It really is living up to the G Master name. There's also no flaring with this lens, and that's been a problem with some macro lenses in the past, but thanks to this guy, I don't have to spend hours in Photoshop getting rid of those flares, which is fantastic. Not only am I super happy with the images, it's also speeding up my workflow in post-production. And doing macro photography, we're kind of stopping down to f16 and above to make sure that everything on our subject is in focus, but those out of focus elements are perfectly circular. And that's thanks to its 11 blade aperture. And we also have very suppressed chromatic aberration thanks to its low dispersion glass. This is all a bit too jargony right now, so basically, in a nutshell, the images are super crisp, the background is super smooth, blurry, buttery, all of those adjectives. You're going to be super happy with the photos and videos that you get with this lens. There have been some amazing 100mm macro lenses from other manufacturers, do not get me wrong, but what is going to set this one apart, I think, is this. Wow, this feels, this feels so illegal. You can fit teleconverters to this lens to get even closer to your subject. So with the 1.4 converter, you get a 140mm f4 macro lens with a 2 times magnification of your subjects. And this combination right here, this is the 2x converter. We get a 200mm f5.6 lens with a 2.8 magnification. 2.8. And even with the teleconverters on, the minimum focusing distance doesn't change that much. So with the lens on its own, we have a 26 centimeter minimum focusing distance. That's just over 10 inches. But with the 2x converter, that only jumps up to 29 centimeters, around 11, 12 inches. So really not that much. And that just means you can get super close, and I mean super close to your subjects. And you're not going to be casting that shadow onto your subject when you're getting really close. And when we're doing macro photography, every bit of light counts. So the more light we can put onto that subject and not be casting shadows, that is fantastic. Now, obviously, you're going to get the sharpest image by just using the lens on its own. But even with the teleconverters, you are getting edge-to-edge tack sharpness. It is really impressive what Sony have done here. And as I mentioned before, we have OSS, optical steady shot, built into this lens, despite Sony leaving OSS off the lens's full government name. So when you pair that with the 8.5 stops of IBIS in the A1 II, you can shoot this handheld for photos, videos, absolutely no problem. And the kicker with this one is that similar to Sony's super telephoto lenses like the 400 and 600, the optical steady shot is actually designed for macro shooting. So those micro jitters that you might have experienced before, they're a thing of the past. This is an incredibly fun lens to use, whether you're a seasoned vet in the macro world or you're a wedding photographer or videographer and you're looking for a new lens to add that little bit of spice to your kit. You really cannot go wrong with the new 100mm f2.8 macro. This is definitely a welcome upgrade to the much loved 90mm from 2015. But let me know what you think of this lens. Did you like the photos that I got? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. But in the meantime, my name is Matt. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.